This conference will now be recorded.
Come to order. Roll call.
Commissioner Gainer,
Here.
Commissioner Jennings,
Here.
Commissioner Rogers,
Here.
Commissioner Warren,
Here.
Mayor Spellman.
Here. If you so desire, will please stand for prayers and this morning and the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, as we gather here to work towards a common goal, we ask for your presence to guide and direct our decisions. We know your will is good for all members of our community. We also pray for our police, our fire department, our city workers, and the hospital workers for the safety in the work they do. We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Additions or deletions?
No, Mayor, we do not.
Move that we approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the agenda as presented. Any discussion? Seeing none, proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Both same sign. Awards and proclamations. Yes, I'm. Whereas the month of March has been designated as National Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities Awareness Month in order to celebrate and recognize people with disabilities, and whereas disability is a natural part of human experience and in no way diminishes the right of people with disabilities to make choices, contributions to the society, and experience the full and many blessings of American society, and whereas family members, friends, and community at large all play a role in supporting people with disabilities as they pursue their dreams, and whereas the goals of the city properly include helping people with disabilities to recognize full access to housing, employment, and the recreational activities which help to create productive and satisfying lives, and also to live as independently as possible. Now, therefore, the Mayor of Arkansas City, Kansas, does hereby proclaim the month of March 2023 as Intellectual Developmental Disabilities Awareness Month in Arkansas City, and call upon the citizens of Arkansas City to observe this month with appropriate programs and activities, and furthermore, encourage citizens of Arkansas City to seek information from those organizations with expertise in matters concerning professionals who support individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities. I need to give this one to you. Whereas Severe Weather Awareness Week is an annual opportunity to raise awareness about the importance of preparing for and understanding severe weather and flooding in Kansas, and to encourage all citizens to prepare their homes, businesses, and communities better for the upcoming storms and flood season. And whereas the Kansas Hazard Mitigation Plan identifies several weather and flooding as some of the costliest types of natural disasters in Kansas in terms of lost lives, injuries, and property damage. And whereas severe thunderstorms, tornadoes, and floods annually threaten people, pets, livestock, homes, and other property in every county in Kansas, and whereas several thunderstorms, tornadoes, and floods can happen anytime, anywhere, without prior warning, and whereas flood damage is not normally covered under the standard homeowners insurance policy, and whereas the state of Kansas, in conjunction with the National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration National Weather Service, will observe Severe Weather Awareness Week on March 6th through the 10th. Now, therefore, the Mayor of the City of Arkansas City does hereby proclaim and recognize March 6th through the 10th, 2023, as Severe Weather Awareness Week in the city of Arkansas City, Kansas, and urge all citizens to recognize this observance and appropriate readiness and preparedness actions, and further urge all citizens to consider becoming more educated about severe weather threats by taking part in the annual presentation of Storm Fury on the Plains that will be offered this year at 6:30 p.m. on February the 28th, 2023 at Cali Cinemas 8.
Okay.
Recognition of staff or visitors. Mr. Graves, you have something for us?
How are you folks this evening?
Good.
First off, I want to say I appreciate all the work you guys do for this city. You do a good job. What I'm here about, I talked with Randy the other day about, well, I was going to try to apply for a grant. I believe it's a Sprint grant that Artie back here with the chamber had gone to. And I need a letter of support from the city, or someone like the city. I went to the big dog first, so I thought I'd talk with you all. What the plans are, September 16th, 2023, marks the 130th year of the run of the opening of the Cherokee Strip outlet. I felt the need that Park City needed to recognize, because it has done every 25 years since the run, but we missed the 125-year anniversary. And I'd like the support from the city, you commissioners, and all the residents of Arkansas City to help put this celebration on. In so doing, I'm going to initialize the project. You'll see the picture of the statue and the memorial wall for those 40-some thousand brave souls that helped open up the outlet on September 16th, 1893. I've read many of the stories about some of the people that did that, and they went through quite a deal just to get 160 acres of this country. In talking about the grant, the particular one that I had interest in, I had to have the project completed by 2025, and I don't feel that I can get that done by then, so that's not a grant that I will be applying for. I don't want to get that project out there and have to turn that money back in. The project for the memorial wall and the statue will take about $3 million. I'm not asking for a nickel from the city, just your support and your energy in trying to put all this on and get this done. That's
Where would that wall and the statue be at?
right there south of my office. I believe I'm gonna get a survey done, but I believe that's real close to where what they call the McCoy line in the records. And that was the first line on the north side of the Cherokee outlet. The state of Kansas boundary is 2.47 miles south of that. But at the time the survey was done and a treaty was made with the Cherokee Indians for that outlet, which was 58 miles wide and 100 and some miles long, why the McCoy line was right there on my property, I believe. I've got to find that, which has some historic significance. And that's the only place that I could think of to put such a wall as I was wanting to do.
How big an area will it cover? I mean,
That wall will be 500 feet long, 10 feet high.
wow.
You know, there'll be hopefully 42,000 stones. But with every plan, you start out with a plan and then you redevelop it. And I have created on my own the Cherokee Strip Outlet Land Rush Consortium. That doesn't interfere with the museum and how they call themselves or anything like that. I'm just trying to put a consortium together, of which the first two members, there's Jill Hunter and Artie Hicks there with the chamber and with the Visit Ark City. And I believe they're 100% behind me on this project.
Have you talked with the museum board about that too?
I have, and they're going to meet and discuss that and become a member of the consortium.
So you all kind of working together?
Yeah, right. And I'd like, it's going to take everybody from the city to put this thing on the celebration. As you'll see also the information I've given you is a cover of the pamphlet that was made in 1993. Well, that's part of the celebration that year. Those are some of the events that took place. We have to develop, this consortium has to develop what events and that we're going to pull off and do. I'm contemplating cooking a whole steer and a barrel of beans and having a little land run down there on the bottom of where the bar is. And museum's planning on having some things. I've talked with Sandy there, and we're all on board so far. We just have to get the official okay from the museum board to include them as part of the consortium. I'd like to include the city commission as part of that consortium too. Developing that deal. So with that being said, keep in mind and hope you get your support.
Thank you.
Randy, how do we do this on the support thing?
I don't know, probably, I think, Mayor, Commissioners, that you can do one of two things. You can just support as individual commissioners, as a commission, a consensus, encourage the city and staff, direct them to maybe do some advertisements of it. Or if there's something that you want to take that was official that comes up that the city itself could do officially, then it could come before you and you could vote on it. I don't think you need a motion to, or anything to.
He's asking for a letter of support, so.
Yeah.
I think a consensus among you all, what you want the letter to say. And
Anybody against it up here?
No, we just need to know what the letter's gonna say.
Is that something you can direct city manager to handle?
I don't think so. Would you do that for?
we can do that. Anything specific there? Yeah, just supporting his.
Whatever you think.
We'll do it.
Whatever's appropriate.
You might give him a run, so make sure that it's done what he wants to be done, in that letter.
He might have one drafted already.
Do you have a draft on that, Russell?
What's that?
Do you have a draft on that letter that you want us to write or sign or?
I don't have a draft.
Isn't it for a grant though? Isn't it for a grant that you're wanting a letter of support?
I'm gonna step back up there. My hearing's not that good.
Okay.
73 years of living's kind of worked on it.
Was it for a grant that you needed the letter of support for?
Well, I don't know what, I don't want to, it wasn't when I initially met with Randy. But when I got to reading the fine print on the grant that was
Oh, okay.
before me, it said it had to be done by 2025, or I had to turn all the money back in. I don't want to take that risk
Okay,
with $3 million.
yeah, so he's just looking for,
This is for a letter of support. Okay.
Just for letter of support.
not even a letter.
Celebrations.
Yeah, it sounds like you just need support.
Support the project. We may come to you for, maybe the part of the organization will be a parade downtown or something like that, just support
Okay.
things like that.
Okay.
And trying to raise the level of awareness and the energy that's going to be required to put this thing on. We're going to need some help, I believe.
Okay.
Okay. Consent agenda?
We approved the consent agenda as written.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the consent agenda as written. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. New business.
Item 1, consider first reading of an ordinance adopting the budgeted pay plan to become effective March 11, 2023.
Mayor, Commissioners, good evening. I don't know if everybody is aware, but our Leslie is retiring on March 27th. Been here for almost 30 years, served the city well. And she has currently, with the help of Tiffany, been performing dual court and city clerk duties. It has been proposed that we separate those duties back out actually, to where you have a city clerk position and a municipal court clerk position. So our request this evening is to add the position of municipal court clerk to the pay ordinance. Upon hiring that position and Tiffany going to city clerk after Leslie leaves, then we would remove the assistant or deputy city clerk position. Again, we are making changes to the pay ordinance as we move and evolve. And we just feel like the citizens are better served with having the positions split back out.
But it still falls in our budget that
Yes,
we
sir.
got for that.
Yes, it stays on the same pay range. There's no change in that.
So we're just basically title changing.
Yes, and separating some duties. Yes, sir.
Right.
Motion, folks. Okay, no motion?
Yeah.
Let's see, I'm looking at your language in the reading of the ordinance, adopting the budgeted pay plan to become, excuse me, sorry. I have to work on that. The language says to adopt the budgeted pay plan. I even slipped up on that the same way. Even I just did it where everybody could hear me. To become effective March 11. Are we adopting a pay plan or are we amending positions?
Okay, all of the above, sir. We have a pay plan, or our pay ordinance, which we are guided by, that if we change position titles or duties, add positions, remove them, we try to keep it up to date so that we don't have a lot of job titles out there that we don't actually have. But we will be creating a new job description, removing the deputy city clerk and creating, and actually we've already done that, a municipal court clerk position. Does that make sense?
It does, okay. Well,
Are you
I
making that
will,
motion?
I will move that we adopt the amended budget pay plan to include the addition of a municipal court clerk and the deletion of a,
We will delete.
oh, we are not doing that
The
yet?
deputy, we'll delete the deputy after we've hired the court clerk.
Okay, so, all right, I'll stop there then
Okay.
about that.
Yes.
To become effective March 11, 2023.
Second that motion.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion?
Clarify, does the motion satisfy your request?
Yes, sir.
It's a roll call vote.
Commissioner Ginger,
Yes.
Commissioner Jennings,
Yes.
Commissioner Rogers,
Yes.
Commissioner Warren,
Yes.
Mayor Spillman.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Number 2, progress update on the wastewater treatment plant upgrade project encompassing construction and budget.
So we have invited the joint venture to come in tonight. So that's a mixture of Burns and McDonald, CAS, and that's it. Okay. They're going to give you an update on the wastewater treatment plant project.
Thank you. Good evening, commissioners. Thanks for giving us some time to review your project. I'm Jeff Keller with the joint venture. As the city manager noted, the joint venture is made up of the design engineering firm Burns McDonnell and CAS Constructors, which is building the facilities right now. And I've got some representatives, and I'm going to be sort of trading places with my construction counterpart here about halfway through. So we've been working with the city since spring of 2020 in identifying the needs for the wastewater treatment plant from a number of viewpoints. Along the way, we sort of identified within the financial capabilities of the city what kind of project needed to be done, focused it on a few really important things that needed immediate attention, and those improvements are under construction now. So we're going to walk through those, give you a little bit of a reminder of what those were all for, kind of walk through what's done and what is yet to be done, and then also give you an update on what the remaining schedule is and what the budget status of the project is at. So I think we have a few lined up here.
Lights.
Yeah, go ahead and maybe move one or two ahead of that.
Thank you.
Here we go. So the project goals here, there were a number of things at the existing wastewater plant that really represented a risk to life and safety. Electrical issues, ventilation issues. Wastewater plants can be pretty hazardous for a lot of reasons. And so there were some immediate safety items that needed to be addressed. Some of the plant was original from the 1960s. A lot of corrosion, a lot of things that were sort of limping along. Your operations staff, as always, has done a fantastic job in keeping things running that really have no business running anymore. So kudos to them, but it was really time to get some of those things replaced. And there were some reliability issues with equipment that did run, but if it decided not to run one day, you would almost immediately have a problem with your water quality compliance. So we identified those problems, worked with you all in putting together a project that was within your financial means, and then we moved ahead to design and build that. So as I said, actually I said 1960s, I should have said 1957. But again, the age and the condition of the plant created some real risks. So I've got a little color-coded graphic here on this slide and the next one. Is everybody okay in terms of seeing colors? I just went through a color blindness training, so I'm a little particularly attuned to that. What we identified was that across the plant, there were some things that just needed replacing. They just were no good anymore at all. Some things simply needed rehabilitation. In particular, items that were made out of concrete. There's some concrete repairs, some piping needed to be replaced, but the overall structure was okay. And so you can see we had the majority of it was replaced or rehab, but there were also a few things that just needed to be added to your plant to either replace things that were no longer any good or things that were needed that you didn't need in 1957. So we'll go through and let me just talk about them here, and then we'll go to the next slide and give you a status update. Those things in blue include your trickling filters, which are part of the water cleaning process, as well as the final clarifier. Those both have concrete issues and mechanical equipment that go in them that needed to be either replaced or repaired. You have a pump station that pumps the water and a screening system that takes materials out of the water. All of those needed some improvements. You have UV disinfection, which disinfects the water before it goes into the river. It's a really important part of your process. You had that process put in around the year 2000, and so it's getting near 25 years old. That's near the end of its life. So replacing that. And then finally, there's two basins over on the east side there, the west digester and the east digester. What those do is they take the residuals left over from the treatment process and turn it into a beneficial reuse product. It goes out to a walnut pecan farm. It's a walnut or pecan?
Pecans, I think.
Is it? Okay. Anyway, it's a great soil amendment. But those facilities had sort of degraded. You really weren't getting the benefit out of them anymore. And so a lot of equipment inside that building and tank needed to be replaced too. So that's how we broke up the work. This next slide shows the status. Those items in blue, the work has been completed. Those that are in green, there's ongoing work. And then it's kind of hard to tell. There's a few that are supposed to be yellow. It looks more like mustard to me, but those are yet to be done. The real driver here on the project right now is our ability to get equipment and materials delivered, right? You guys have probably heard 1.5 million times about supply chain issues. And that's no different on a wastewater treatment plant project than on any other kind of construction project. As soon as the equipment shows up, it is getting installed. But at this point, that's where the project lies. It's getting the stuff to show up so that the construction crew can put it in place. We're about 75% complete in terms of installed equipment and installed cost. There's going to be a number of things that still need to get put into place and put into operation, but so far there's been no disruption in the performance of your wastewater treatment plant. What has happened is some of the very, I would say, dangerous, potentially dangerous things that existed in your plant are now gone. There is a huge element of electrical risk out there. All that dangerous electrical stuff is gone. That big blank space on the wall just makes me feel much better for your employees. And the next sort of safety item that we're going to be working on is new fans and air handling equipment to make those spaces they work in safe for them to be in. So making good progress. Do you want to go to the next slide, please? I think we have a series of progress photos that I'm going to have my construction counterpart walk through, and then he's going to walk through the remaining schedule and finance.
I got a question.
Absolutely.
Getting back to, what we're waiting on parts and stuff, are we paying employees or employment for waiting on those parts, or are you moving somewhere else, doing some work until those parts come in and switch them back and forth?
That's a great question. It's a really good question. What we've been able to do so far is we've had to reorder the schedule a little bit to keep everybody working. So we haven't had that issue yet. If we got into a situation where there was an extended delay, we wouldn't leave people on the site in that situation because there's other work that has to be done. But so far, that hasn't been an issue.
Okay.
Could you clarify again, just real quickly, what you identified as the 2000-ish era renovation?
Yeah, sure. Would you mind going back maybe 4 or 5 slides? Okay, if you go right at the very bottom of the photo, there's a rectangular blue square, and underneath it says UV disinfection.
Right.
Right. That disinfects your clean water before it's discharged to the river. So it's a really important step in the treatment process, and it's a requirement in your permit. And if you can imagine, it's made up of bulbs that look like these fluorescent bulbs, but it puts out a special spectrum of light that kills bacteria and virus. And just like your regular fixtures in here, they only last so long. 20 to 25 years is about it. And when they go out, they're out. And so replacing them now is right on schedule with making sure that your plant stays in compliance.
And that's in the upcoming work.
That is part of our work, right? We're waiting for that equipment to get delivered.
And that'll take care for the next 25 years or so?
So 20, 25 years is a reasonable expectation for the life of that kind of equipment, yes. Any other questions about the sort of the overall project? I'm going to hand this over to my counterpart here, so there'll be somebody else to answer questions too if they come to you. All right?
Thank you.
Okay.
Good evening. My name is Shannon Cruz. I'm the project manager for CAS Construction. So Burns and Mac does the engineering design work. CAS does the construction part. So we hire all the subcontractors, order all the equipment. And just going to go through real quick some of the photos of where we're at, what we've done. One of the big issues with starting out was when your water comes in, there's some bar screens that pull the trash out and it dumps it into a conveyor. Your guys out there were working with a screw conveyor, kind of like an auger, and it would pack and it just plug up. We were able to install a new belt conveyor and not had any issues with any of that equipment. They haven't had to unplug anything, keeps everything clean. And I know they're happy with it, but it basically carries the trash outside, drops it into a dumpster, and then the trash truck shows up, dumps the dumpster, and they move on. They don't have to spend any time unplugging it. So your digesters, there you have 2 digesters. Usually you have lids on them to hold the gas and stuff in. One of your lids was not there, and the other one we just got demoed out a couple months ago. But this is a picture of the new steel digester lids. So they come out in pieces. We built them on the ground. They were all sandblasted, coated with 3 coats of epoxy. And then this is the crane on the right. The crane is setting it in. We had to go into the tank, build new concrete supports to hold that lid up. And these are floating lids. So when the gas pressure comes up, they lift and come back down. They're a variable gas catching system. Here's the interior of that first tank. That's some of the form work that we had to put in. The pilasters, basically 10 concrete columns the lid then sits on. And then as the gas pressure builds, the gas pushes the lid up off of those pilasters. Inside the basement is the piping that connects these two tanks. We actually are replacing all of that piping and valves. Some of that piping, when we started, had actually worn completely through, and Tommy and the other city guys had replaced it just with PVC pipe because they couldn't lift the new replacement ductile pipe into place. And so the basement itself, all of that piping has been replaced, except just a little bit on our second digester that we're working on.
So the second digester, you're not replaced all the piping in?
So we have everything placed up to it. The city was in charge of cleaning that old digester out, and it just got done last week. And so we've actually dropped in there today. We're making repairs and working on the pilasters and stuff into that tank. And then we just have a little bit, there's some pipes that go through the wall that we've got to cut out and replace them. So this is the clarifier mechanism. We pulled the old mechanism out and the old troughs. This is on the left, it's actually the new mechanism, actually both of them, left and right. But that's the new mechanism as we put it in. We have a couple of the new effluent launder troughs. We got a couple of them there, but I just got notice today that they're going to put the rest of the troughs on a truck Friday. So hopefully it'll be delivered here Monday or Tuesday. We can start on that work, and then we have to put covers on those troughs, and then we can get this back into service. This clarifier is actually pretty much complete, and we actually had the manufacturers come out. They always do a dry check, so they come out and check everything without any water in the tank, make sure it's all level, and so it's all been checked out. In the course of the design, I guess, it was determined to get new blowers. You guys had some blowers that were inside a building. These are 3 new blowers. They sit right outside of the aeration tank. I think the city is happy with them. They are quiet. And then in that electrical room, blower room, we've actually removed all the existing blowers out of that room. So this system is completely up and running. The city's using it. Trickling filters. So you had 2 trickling filters. I don't know how old the mechanisms were, but they were not in good enough shape to be rebuilt. So we purchased 2 new trickling filter mechanisms, basically almost exact copies of what was there from the same company, Walker, and installed both of those. And then while we had it down, there was some concrete deterioration and some structural repairs, rebar showing. So we went ahead and cleaned all that up, patched all that tank back. So I'm sure these are original 1957 tanks, so they're in as good a shape as they could be for 1957. But we patched them all up, and they look pretty good. So the electrical building, I know some of you guys are nodding your head like you maybe have seen the electrical room and all the black smoke and stuff. So how we approached this project was to replace all that electrical gear. We bought all new electrical gear and had it put in this building. It came as one unit. We set the unit down beside the old building, and then the electrician was able to run new power into the old building, and as he took the old gear out, he could just pull new wire into the existing conduits and stuff. So this was probably a godsend for getting this project done, was to get a completely separate electrical building and all of the gear so that we could just go in and bypass the existing electrical, not try to pull something out, keep it running, and put it in. Financial and schedule update. So the total contract amount is a little over $12 million. That had some allowances in it because we didn't know what we were going to find when we take the digesters down. Some of it was the piping, some painting. We had to buy some equipment early. I'm sure maybe you guys remember that. But we couldn't get all of it, so there were price increases. So that's basically what the allowances were used for. Some price increases, some delays, and then just some whatever we find. I mean, we found several items that we didn't anticipate. So that comes into those allowances. Currently, there's about $180,000 in the owner control contingency and about $41,000 in the piping allowance itself. And then third-party testing was basically concrete. We never know how much testing is going to be. So there's still some money, and our goal is to return as much as we can to the city. Schedule update, so kind of shows where we're at. Final clarifier, I think, is probably going to stretch sometime into a little bit of March. The grit removal equipment, we actually installed that last week. We got a few pieces that we're waiting on, and I've got that scheduled for startup first week of April. So grit removal should be online according to this schedule. The digester complex, we just got into that tank yesterday. The city finally got it all cleaned out, and we were able to get a look at it. That's going to be pretty close for our schedule to get the piping done, get the concrete done, and get that new lid set in place. And then, Tommy and Spencer can start transferring sludge over. After we get that east digester tank set, it's kind of in the way right now for where the flare goes. So once we get that lid out of the way, we can start working on the flare. And then UV, we're waiting on the equipment to show up. Hopefully, it'd kind of be like the electrical building. I want to get the electrical gear so we can get it all set. It's going in a separate place than what's there now. We can get it all wired up, and our goal is to have very little downtime between pulling the old stuff out and the new stuff in. We're reusing the channel, and again, we'll get everything fed there so that hopefully we can just kind of pull out and put back in. Electrical, it's kind of an ongoing thing as stuff gets ready. Electrician will be out there like next week probably to work on the grid that we just got put in last week. So he's kind of coming and going as needed. And then instrumentation, that's kind of a biggie. There's not a lot out there, which has been a godsend because computer chips and logic controllers are almost unavailable. And so we're working through bypasses as well as we can to keep everybody going. But they think May delivery for the SCADA programming computer system, logic chips. So that stuff has been ordered almost 9 or 10 months.
Yeah, not knowing that, when we first started way back when, I think the due date was around April, but we extended like about 3 months. So that's pretty good. I mean, consider what's going on in the world.
Yeah. It's been a pretty big struggle.
Yeah.
Next. Oh, there's your sign. We're working on maybe getting a new sign. Any questions?
Well, it's amazing we kept it under budget so far. I mean, with everything's happened, so.
Yeah.
Under budget and somewhat still on schedule with all the delays.
Yeah, we're just three months off, maybe 4 at the most, but that's pretty good.
Yeah. Well, we really like working with the city. Tommy and Spencer, all them guys out there, it's really been great. They've really been great. Very accommodating. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Keep your report.
That's your question, Charles?
Could you, just for clarification on the instrumentation,
Yeah.
talk just a little bit more about what you're doing there? Are we automating things more?
No, and Jeff can maybe talk to it about it too. We're not automating too much. There's a few probes that will get tied in to control blowers. Some of it is just sending signals, flow rates, stuff like that. We have some flow meters we're putting in. We're putting in some new level controllers for the digesters so that Tommy and Spencer can know what level it's at. So there's very little controls on it. It's mostly just monitoring and sending signals over to the new admin building so that they can pull it up on a computer screen and know what's running or at what level something's running or at what level the digesters are at. Or if there's a fault, if something trips out, it will send a signal. But there's very little actual controls, remote controls in this project.
Okay. So, but I think I hear you saying things like that, that we do have some like tattletales that basically say if like our discharge might not be in compliance so that we don't.
Yeah, I don't know. There's really nothing like that. We probably have a UV bulb monitor or something, but there's no disinfection test or there's no clarity test or anything. That's still pretty much set by the operator.
Yeah.
I know that like the airflow rate for the aeration basins can go up and down based on the dissolved oxygen probe or something like that. But this is certainly not a push button computer controlled plant. by any means.
We just got some good personnel running it.
Yes, you do.
Really, we're lucky to have that.
Yeah. I don't know that a computer could run it as well. I mean, they really foresee things coming up.
I tell you, this plant's been dangerous for years. Luckily, we didn't have any employees get killed in that plant. With the
I would
gases coming off and the bare wirings that was there.
I would agree with that. I mean, when you see smoke on MCCs and signs that say, don't turn this switch on and stuff, it's not
The day we went down and toured that thing before we got started, I was scared to touch anything, wires and everything else down there. I mean, it's crazy.
We get it all done, maybe you guys can take another tour.
There you go.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. On February 14th, we had the CBDG bid walkthrough on the housing grants. We had 4 contractors show up and they looked at the 5 houses. And so on February 23rd at 1 p.m., we'll have bid openings on those. And then the first meeting in March, then we'll bring those recommended bids for you guys to approve. Also on the 23rd, CBDG will be here to do a grant monitoring on this Summit Street project that we did over the summer. So that's kind of the final check, make sure we have all of our records in place and all the accounting and stuff's correct. So we'll get that out of the way. And then I just want to remind you guys again, on May 3rd, we'll have the incident command system overview for elected officials over at Winfield. And I provided you guys information on that the other day, so just want to remind you of that. And then April 14th through 15th is the League of Municipalities Leadership Summit in Hayes this year. So if any of you are interested in that, you might get it on your calendar and we can get you signed up for that. And then the other thing is just remind you to check out the financial summary in the back of the packet. It's still fresh, it's brand new, so it's changed before the year, but at least it keeps you up to date on where we're at right now. So that's all I have.
Anything to be discussed by the commissioners?
What was those days in Hayes again?
April 14th and 15th. So it'll be a Friday and a Saturday.
What day is that for?
Are we on the commission?
Yes.
Okay. Had a couple of things that I wanted to just inquire on. We got the most recent update from the Reef organization. Let me see if I can pull that up here. I'm sorry. I gotta do this all over again. We have this information, most recent information on legislative activity that comes from the REAP organization. A couple of things they talked about, I wasn't quite clear, and I thought posing this back out to the city manager, he may know who to talk to or may have the answer. They talked about let me get this correctly here. Senate Bill 94, which shifts the building funding to appropriate funding coming from state general fund, which is not always stable funding source. And it talked about the potential impact on things like the state water plan, for which wasn't funded, we know, for over a decade. And it says it created an $80 million. This Senate Bill 94, I'm just curious, is that something that might be beneficial to us in our future projects, water projects?
So I'm trying to, Senate Bill 94. Is that associated? I know House Bill 2302 is funding the state water plan.
Okay. Yeah, I think they were working both sides.
Yeah, that's probably the Senate version of it then. So I was following the House bill.
Okay.
But yeah, that's basically diverting some sales tax revenue to the state water fund. It'll provide technical assistance, $5 million a year until it reaches 15 million. And then they're talking about water project grants up to 15 million, with no grants being more than 8 million. And then paying for some water storage in Milford and Perry, diverting 15 million pound storage in Milford and Perry reservoirs. Funding the administration, funding them be administrated by the water office, and $44 million new dollars in the direct fund the water plan. I know Brian may have some information more on that. I'm not sure if you're following that or not, but it looks like they're going to probably try to weight communities of 5,000 or less. So it's really just kind of fun.
Thank you for clarifying that. I was kind of trying to speed read through this. It is the House bill that says that it seems to have a lot of support for such.
Yeah. And then House Bill 2047 and then Senate Bill 120 is the one where they're going to change the amortization period for the revolving loan from 20 years to 30 years. So that may be helpful on projects where we'll have an extra 10 years to have that bit.
Well, I got a question since we're on this, we're talking about our piping and stuff. We got this 2 miles of bad pipes and stuff and the water tower. Is there anything that will fall into that thing?
I don't know so much on the water plan side of things, maybe, but the 30-year amortization of the loans versus 20 could be helpful.
Yeah.
But we still have some debt limitations and things of that nature we have to deal with. But it could help in that spread the cost out over more years.
Are you comfortable expounding any on? You said it might help us in it.
You're currently looking at for the sewer project, a 20-year term for payback.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the limit. That's the longest you can go currently.
Okay.
That secondary one would allow an extension of that up to 30 years, which, as you would understand, it would lower your annual payment. It would increase it overall a little bit. So it would give you another tool if you so chose.
Okay. Would that affect our interest rates the way we got it right now? Because we got good interest rates way back.
The way that they do that is you get the best rate at 20 years. There's a slight increase for 30.
Okay.
But then the water system, they actually have a 40-year as well. That's a little bit higher as well, but they're all very feasible rates.
Okay.
Not as low as what we have today, though.
Okay, thank you. I didn't realize you hit the ball back over the net to the city manager. Thank you for that. The other thing that I wanted to present or raise a question about, in the entities that we franchise in the community, I do know that I've seen on social media, I'm sorry, I'm trying to push my voice out. I've seen on social media a number of our citizens who have talked about what I would characterize as maybe some substandard service on with their Cox television and internet, and this ambiguity or a lack of clarity in terms of their response to customer complaint policies, where if they send out a service person, they don't really, well, customers aren't quite sure, and so they're reluctant to call and say, hey, I got a problem with my service. They're accepting substandard because some are getting hit with these $100 fees for what sounds to me like the entity doing some things that are infrastructure related. And I don't know if there's a way we could maybe have somebody from the business come and just share with us what their policies and practices are in terms of responding to customer needs. I don't know if that's at a future date.
Invite somebody.
Anything else? Okay. Comments from the audience? Mr. Gottlieb? Cliff? You're up.
My reason for coming in is it's kind of an alarming rate. We have homeless people here in our community. In the old days, we had a real good Salvation Army, and they helped out a lot on it. About half my friends say we need to do something. The other half say it's going to have some consequences that come with it if something is done in the future. But that's true about everything. Everything has its pros and cons. But one of the suggestions they had was the motel that is closed down. I think it's 400 block on Summit on the east side. And if there were grants available through either the state or the federal, it could help out financially, because I know you folks are really strapped financially just to meet the status quo. But that's why I wanted to bring it up. If you'd like to check some of this out, we have some of them living under bridges at night, and I've never seen it this bad. But I'm an old person, so that makes a difference. But I do appreciate you letting me let you folks know. I think we have a problem, and hate to dump it on you guys to come up with a solution. But I think it's a very Christian thing to address it. But I thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? I don't have anyone else.
Is the townhouse, it's still privately owned?
Yeah, he was privately owned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're
He's
supposed to be
still
coming,
working on it.
they're supposed to be coming to our meetings next month sometime. So
Oh,
that's something we could talk to them about.
Anything further?
I'll make a motion to adjourn. Second.
Adjourn.
Aye. That's a bad deal. I don't know how you do it. The guy lives in the, that's where he's at.
All right. That's it.